Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava Metzia, page 92a, part 2, with the words Iboy Lahu. A dilemma was raised before the sages. In the case of a laborer who eats while performing labor, does he eat from his own property? In other words, is the food he eats in addition to his wages and therefore considered his private property? Or does he eat from the property of heaven? In other words, perhaps the Torah grants him the right to eat the food which he works as a special privilege, but it doesn't belong to him. It's not his food, but he's allowed to eat it. Or is it considered his food? Good question. In classic Talmudic fashion, the Gemara asks, Lamai nafkamina. What's the practical difference? You're splitting hairs. You go to a barbershop. You know what I mean? Why you gotta split hairs? Or cut hairs, whatever. The Gemara asks, what is the practical difference raised by this dilemma? Lamai nafkamina. And that would be a nice gematria to know. Lamai nafkamina has a gematriatic value of 417. But in Atbash it's 1038. 129 is coming up also. Lamai nafkamina, what's the practical difference? Okay. Lamai nafkamina. The Gemara asks, what is the practical difference raised by this dilemma? The Gemara answers, the difference is, in a case where he says, I myself will not eat, but I will give the produce to my wife and children in my stead. If you say that he eats from his own property, we give them the food as it belongs to him. But if you say that he eats it from the property of heaven, the merciful one entitles the laborer himself to eat, but the merciful one does not entitle his wife and children to do so. What then is the halacha? The Gemara suggests, come and hear a proof in the Mishnah. A laborer may eat cucumbers, and this is the halacha, even if the amount he eats is equal in value to a dinar. Or he may eat dates. And this is the halacha, even if the amount he eats is equal in value to a dinar. Dinar. Excuse me. If you say that he eats from his own property, is it possible that he was hired for 1/6 of a dinar, and that he may eat an amount worth a whole dinar? Would the Torah have granted him ownership of such a large sum relative to his wages? The Gemara refutes this argument. Rather, what will you say? Will you say that he eats from the property of heaven? Ultimately, in that case, too, he was hired for 1/6 of a dinar, and yet in practice he may eat an amount worth a dinar. Rather, what have you to say? That the merciful one entitles him to eat more than his wages. Here too, one can likewise say that the merciful one entitles him to possess more than his wages. The Gemara offers another suggestion. Come and hear proof. From another statement from the Mishnah, Rabbi Elazar Chisma says, a laborer may not eat more than the value of his wages, but the rabbis permit it. What, is it not the case that they disagree with regard to this? That one sage, Rabbi Elazar Chisma, holds that he eats from his own property, and therefore he may not eat an amount worth more than he earns. And one sage, the rabbis, hold that he eats from the property of heaven. The Gemara rejects this suggestion. No. It is possible that even everyone agrees that he eats from his own property, and here they disagree with regard to the meaning of a term in the verse. When you come into your neighbor's vineyard, then you may eat grapes until you have enough at your own pleasure. Kenafshecha. Deuteronomy 23:25. One sage, Rabbi Elazar, holds that at your own pleasure, kenafshecha, which literally means in accordance with your soul. It is referring to a matter for which he hands over his soul. In other words, the laborer acquires the fruit by virtue of the risks he accepts upon himself as part of his work. And one sage, the rabbis, holds that the term kenafshecha means like your own person. Just as with regard to your own person, in other words, the owner, if you muzzle yourself, you are exempt, as you yourself do not have to eat. So too, with regard to a laborer, if you muzzled him, in other words, you did not allow him to eat, you are exempt. This indicates that there are cases in which a worker is not entitled to eat. The Gemara suggests, come and hear proof, my Braita. If a Nazarite who is working in a vineyard says, give the grapes to my wife and my children, he is prohibited from eating them as he is prohibited from eating them himself. They do not listen to him. But if you say that a laborer eats from his own property, why should they not listen to him? The Gemara answers there, the reason is different. Due to the well-known proverb concerning a Nazarite, go, go, we say to a Nazarite, go round, do not approach a vineyard. He basically shouldn't even be in a vineyard. That's why we don't give it to his wife. It's prohibited for a Nazarite to eat any of the products of the vine. Lech lecha, sechor, lekar melo sikrav. Mishum lech lecha. It's interesting. It's like the parsha lech lecha. Amaylo shomin lo hasam mishum lech lecha. Amrina nizira. Sechor, lekar melo tikrav. Sechor is like sevuv. It's like go round. Go, Amrina nizira. It's an interesting thing. We should probably get that gematria as well. It seems like fundamental ideas that if you have these in your Mishkan Osechas, you know what I mean? It could be a very good, productive Bagna Dunu Shusah. What? What did he just say? Whatever. Go, we say to a Nazarite, go round. Do not approach a vineyard. It is prohibited for a Nazarite to eat any of the products on the vine. To keep a Nazarite away from temptation, the sages attempt to deter him from accepting work in a vineyard by not allowing him to give the fruit to his family. Aha. Concerning this halacha is due the concern about a possible transgression and has nothing to do with the rights of a laborer. Okay, very interesting. Okay. Come and hear a proof from a Braita with regard to a laborer who said, give the produce to my wife and my children. They do not listen to him. But if you say that he eats from his own property, why should they not listen to him? The Gemara refutes this argument. In this particular context, what is the meaning of a laborer? It means a Nazarite laborer. Oh, brings it right back to the thing. The Gemara questions this response, but isn't it taught in one Braita concerning the case of a Nazarite? And isn't it taught in another Braita concerning the case of a laborer? Apparently, these are two different halachot. The Gemara rejects the suggestion. Were these Braitot taught alongside one another, such that one can deduce a halacha from the change in the wording? These are two separate Braitot, and therefore no inference can be drawn from the difference in terminology, and both may be referring to a Nazarite laborer. The Gemara suggests, come in here, proof another Braita from where is it derived with regard to a laborer who said, give the produce to my wife and my children, that they do not listen to him, as it is stated, but you shall not put any into your vessel. Deuteronomy 23:25. And if you would say that so too, this is referring to Nazarite. If so, the reason is not due to the verse, but you shall not put any in your vessel. Rather, it is due to the principle go. We say to Nazarite, do not approach a vineyard. In Hachinami. What's the gematria of Ein Hachinami? That'd be cool. Yes, this is indeed so. All means Ein Hachinami, all the more so. L'may nafkamina. Okay, we'll do a little bit later, but Ein Hachinami. These are like really good fundamental principles, structural words here. En hachinami means yes, indeed, this is so. In hachinami. The Gemara refutes this proof. Yes, it is indeed so. This Braita is discussing a Nazarite, and since it teaches the halacha by utilizing the language of a laborer without specifying that he's a Nazarite, it cites the verse that is stated with regard to a laborer. In fact, the actual source for the halacha is a decree due to Nazariteship, while the practice is permitted to any other laborer. Hashema, the Gemara suggests, come and hear a proof from a Mishnah, Masrot 2:7. With regard to an hires a laborer to prepare figs for drying, to be continued on 92b.